Hi, guys, welcome to the Late Night Drives podcast. This week we have Sukriti with us to help dissect and discuss the weekend's Styrian Grand Prix. Hi, Sukriti, welcome to this week's episode of the Late Night Drives podcast. We look back towards the weekend and the action packed Styrian GP. What are your thoughts, first impressions of this action packed weekend, like I said?
Um, I think action-packed Friday and Saturday. Sunday, to me personally, a little disappointing. Not as much action as I would have liked to see. But first thoughts, I think a great drive from Max and a sort of perfect weekend for Red Bull, with Max taking pole and actually winning the race, and not putting one foot wrong.
Yeah, he seemed like comfy and confident almost all weekend long, whether it was through practices and through qualifying. Like, it didn't seem like anything was phasing him, even when he was, in practice at various points, not leading
Yeah.
like the timesheets or not setting the timesheets alight. He seemed to be quite comfortable, and I think confident is the word that I would use personally for his attitude
Yeah, like
all
someone
weekend.
who knows that he's got a good car and he's in a good place and he can do it,
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, which comes I think largely from being the championship leader and winning three races coming into this race as well. Versus, I don't think Mercedes seems so as flawless as they once were.
Yeah, I think Mercedes to the last, I mean, 3 weekends now, right? They've sort of been struggling with their setups
Been
through
on the back
practice
foot,
and
yeah.
qualifying, trying to find that pace against Red Bull, who seem to have like become a little quicker. Positive start for them this weekend though. Bottas having figured out his setup in the press conference, I think Thursday press conference or Friday press conference, he said that he had a word with Lewis Hamilton
Yeah,
and
post quali.
or the post quali
Yeah.
press conference saying that he used Hamilton's help to help figure out his setup,
Yeah.
and it seemed to have benefited him quite a bit.
Yeah, and his three-place grid penalty for spinning in the pit lane also didn't affect him too badly, with him finishing the race
Yeah, in
on
third
the
place,
podium.
right? Yeah. It was pretty good. I think good recovery from him after his penalty, and
Yeah.
I think this was probably the most that Mercedes could hope for
for
from the weekend.
for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. I think they reacted well. I think one thing that was good that worked out well for Mercedes was Perez lacked the pace in qualifying, so he in Q2 he went on the softs. Which meant he had to start the race on the softs, and it wasn't the Perez that we've seen for the last couple of weeks, who's just gone and done more laps than anybody else and just stayed out and stayed out and stayed out and really maximized his tires. So the minute Perez dived into the pits, they got Bottas to come into the pits as well, and they were able to get out ahead.
Yeah, I think they tried to cover that undercut. So
Overcut.
Yeah,
They tried to
undercut.
cover. Yeah, they tried to
Mercedes
cover.
tried to
Yeah.
cover the
Yeah.
undercut, right?
Yeah.
I think Red Bull sort of gambled with the strategies of Perez, trying to do something different as opposed to Verstappen. So, trying to mix things up. The only way to put it is probably mess with Mercedes, right?
Yeah.
And didn't really pay off this time around as much as they hoped. As much as Perez tried, like closed in, I think he finished just half a second behind
Yeah.
Bottas to
Yeah.
finish P4.
Yeah.
But he almost got there towards
Yeah,
the
and
end.
I think also if they hadn't had like a bit of a fumble with his pit stop, right? Like his pit stop was 4.8 seconds, and from a team like Red Bull that has been doing two sub 2 second pit stops, that wasn't one of their like finest moments, and that sort of also really helped Mercedes this weekend.
Yeah, I think that's true. Red Bull's pit stop was really bad, and it's quite surprising from a team like Red Bull, right,
Yeah.
to make such a mistake. But I guess these things happen, and like when it's just a matter of a second or like quarters of a second, Mercedes is going to be there to like
Capitalize on that.
on it.
Yeah,
of course,
for sure.
definitely.
Like George Russell says that racing can be brutal,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for
Yeah.
him, it really was this weekend. Huh?
Yeah, let's actually talk about Russell. I wouldn't say that was a highlight. That was a heartbreak for me. He missed out on qualifying by 8,000th of a second on Q3, on making it into Q3. And for Russell in a Williams, that is impressive. For him to actually be there and almost making it into Q3, and he ended up starting 10th on the grid because Sonoda got a 3 place grid penalty, and at one point he was running 8th.
And he was running 8th comfortably, man.
Yeah,
He was like seeming
yeah.
to manage the gap both in front of him and
And
behind
behind
him.
him.
Like when the
And-
team came onto the radio and asked him to back off a little bit from Alonso to like help the car and
Yeah.
help their
Reliability,
mechanical reliability issues and stuff. He still seemed to be doing a brilliant job keeping Tsunoda behind him
Absolutely.
at the same time. So he had a phenomenal race till, I mean,
Till he
unfortunately, lap 27 when his pneumatic pressures went all over the place and they had to
Yeah.
like fill the air.
Just
You
terrible luck.
Yeah, I think it's just bad luck for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, and he could have had the race gone smoothly, he could have finished in 7th, maybe, and gotten like a bunch of points, and that would have actually put Williams ahead of Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, I mean, like he said, right, after the race, that it would have meant like a couple of points for Williams, and at the end of the season, that could make the difference between them finishing in like 10th place in the constructors versus them finishing like 8th or 9th, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's a huge like bonus for them. It's surprising to, and it's quite sad actually, more than surprising for them to not capitalize on moments like this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we sort of just, since we were talking about qualifying, I just want to mention there was a point in Q2 where the top 11 drivers were just like 3/10 apart.
Yeah, I think the practice sessions and the quali sessions were as exciting almost as exciting as the race.
Yeah.
So, like I said, an eventful Styrian GP.
Yeah, and I think it's so I just sort of want to compare that, right? So you have Q2 where 11 drivers are just 3/10 apart, and then you have the race, and if you look at race pace, the leader of the race has lapped everyone from driver number 5.
Yeah, I mean,
So except for the 2 Red Bulls and the 2 Mercedes, everyone's been lapped.
yeah, it's quite ridiculous. Of course, the circuit being as short as it is
Yeah, of
helps
course.
in that matter,
Of course.
But yeah, their race pace of these, like the Red Bulls and the Mercedes, are on another level. I think that's what you're trying to say.
Yeah,
Like, on the
yeah.
high fuel loads, they are so much faster than everybody else. But speaking of qualifying, I mean, Ricciardo had a terrible qualifying again this this race. He seemed to have gained some ground, like coming to terms with the car last weekend, but I don't know. I mean, he was like almost a second slower, I think, by the end of it.
Half a second.
Half a second
Behind
slower
his teammate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
behind his teammate.
Yeah.
And that's a huge difference. And he just seems to not have the pace this weekend. Surprisingly, he was like, I think, second or third quickest in like practice too, but on Friday.
Yeah.
But like that pace just didn't translate into qualifying on Saturday. But yeah, I mean, Norris again pulling out a blinder, qualifying fourth for McLaren.
Yeah,
Seems
starting
to
third.
seems to be like the fighting force for McLaren, and third in the championship. Doing everything he can to keep them there, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, he seemed to be like on it all weekend long.
Yeah, I think consistency. He's been very very consistent, and I don't want to say too much. I think everyone's spending too much time talking about how he's performed this year, and I can't.
Okay, I just need to like say this. This is just one thing, right? Like his opening lap. I mean, I think last year we saw some brilliant laps of his.
Yeah.
I think that was the closing laps of the Austrian GP, right? But his opening lap was phenomenal, keeping Perez behind
Yeah.
him. Much faster car. Perez got past him.
And
I
a
think,
driver with 10 years of experience.
yeah, I mean Perez got past him, but he like went on the outside and like overtook Perez in the opening lap again and kept him behind for a few laps. That
Yeah.
was really impressive. I mean, that was the one thing that I just wanted to say
Yeah.
about Norris. And yeah, we can swiftly move on now after that. Another team that showed real promise was Ferrari after their disappointing race at Paul Ricard last weekend. Right?
Yeah, they didn't have a great qualifying, but I think Ferrari's finally figured out that there is something called strategy. And I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for saying this, but yeah, it's high time that they realize that an F1 race is about, figuring out what's happening in the moment and planning for the X number of laps that are left. And I think they finally brought it this time around.
Yeah, the strategy really worked this race. Huh? Like you said, they weren't great at qualifying at all. They're over a single lap, low fuel runs. They just didn't seem to have the pace. But in the race, they just like came alive, right? And
Yeah, because they qualified 7th and Sainz qualified 12th.
yeah.
But both finished in the points, 5th and 6th.
Yeah, and especially like Charles after the first lap incident and his contact with Gasly, him
Yeah.
having to like
Pit
pit in the
immediately.
first
Yeah.
lap, right?
Yeah.
That was a brilliant strategic call too, if I'm not mistaken. They switched him to the hard tire right up front,
Knowing that they would have to pit him again,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and I think that strategy really helped him climb up into I think 7th place.
Yes.
He finished 7th
He finished 7th.
after
Behind-
being last on the first lap. That was
Yeah.
a brilliant drive from him, and it was a great recovery drive from Ferrari. Keeps them 12 points behind McLaren
in the
third?
championship.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And their fight for third place in the constructors really seeming to go neck and neck and
Yeah.
like really down to the wire. I hope it does at
Yeah,
least.
I just want to point out though that Norris has earned bulk of the points for McLaren, and Ferrari has 2 drivers that have been consistently earning points, and they are still behind McLaren.
Then-
So
yeah.
I mean, I just want to hop on that.
There's no denying that. I mean, it's
Sorry,
a fact.
you can
right?
be like
Fact's
a
a fact.
fanboy for.
Of Leclerc,
Yeah,
of Ferrari,
yeah, but
of Leclerc.
I'm for Norris, right?
Yeah.
So I can't not mention that if you're going to talk about.
Yeah, I mean the heartbreaks at Monaco for Leclerc, I suppose, helped in that sense. But anyway, let's move swiftly past that, right? Who else should we talk
Can
about?
we talk about Gasly, since we're talking about Charles anyway,
Yeah,
and how he took Gasly out? Yes, it was
It's a racing
incident.
incident,
Yes,
okay.
it was a racing
Yes.
incident. No, I'm not trying to malign his good name
yeah,
in any way, but yeah, that was heartbreak. This race was heartbreak for me, with DNFs for both
Gasly,
Pierre
yeah.
and George.
George Russell. Yeah.
Yeah, because Pierre was another driver that showed a lot of promise this weekend in practice. He went P2 in one of the practice sessions. He in
Q2.
in qualifying it at one point as well. He was putting in laps faster than Hamilton and faster than Max at one point. So there was a lot of promise for a good points finish today. But the opening lap, it was Charles, Pierre, and Alonso going side by side, and at
Yeah,
one.
three wide in like turn
Yeah.
3, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think they both just sort of squeezed Gasly, and he didn't have anywhere to go, and like both Gasly and Leclerc moved at the same time towards each other, and I think it was just one of those things that sort of like caused a puncture for him, and that
Yeah.
resulted in a suspension failure, and yeah, that was the end of his race, unfortunately. And to be fair, he had a new MG UK unit.
Exactly.
So, like, he had really strong pace, like you said, through qualifying 3, through practice 3 and in qualifying.
in qualifying.
And just to mention this, he has been one of the most consistent qualifiers. Like,
Yeah.
consistently qualifying either 5th, 6th, or 7th, right?
Yeah.
For AlphaTauri. And yeah, I think he's been like, in my opinion, consistently outperforming the car.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think also, a lot of credit to the fact that this is a driver that has been put through shit by Red Bull.
Yeah.
And to come back and still, be with the B team, and give it your everything every weekend and be at a level that's clearly better than the level the car's at, right? And to come back week on week and do that, he yeah.
There was a 40% chance of rain at the beginning of this race.
Yeah.
Of course, it ended up being no chance of rain in the race.
It showed up on the podium when once the drivers reached the podium.
Half an hour too late for,
yeah, for Mercedes.
Mercedes.
Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of Mercedes, actually, I brought this up because on lap 19, Hamilton complained to his engineer about his tire degradation problem.
Are you like now just keeping a record of every time Hamilton says Bono, my tires are short? Like what are you doing? Are you like?
I just wanted to point it out, right? Like, I thought it was some sort of premonition.
Well, it wasn't last week,
yeah,
and it clearly wasn't this week either.
Clearly. So maybe I need to get over this and move on. I just thought I'll put this out there. But
yeah.
Speaking of Hamilton, he also almost spun out in lap 25.
Yeah.
Right? Putting like his rear left tire into the gravel and somehow managing to keep it on track. That was just like another incident that I thought I'll mention. Speaking of Mercedes, again, Bottas got past Lando Norris quite quickly on lap 11, right? I think.
So did Perez.
Both of them did.
Perez before Bottas. Yeah.
I think McLaren very early on realized that that was not the battle they were fighting, at least for this race, and it was pointless for them to do so. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting that
they're realistic about.
Yeah, it was almost like they let those drivers pass, like on lap 11.
I think they did, but I also think what was the point, right? Like I think their idea was to maximize the points they could, and if they had tried to sort of engage in a more of a battle with these two drivers who were in clearly faster cars, wouldn't it have just been a scenario where Norris's tires would have degraded much faster, and then you don't know how the rest of the race is going to go. You don't know what the next 60 laps are going to bring.
Yeah.
Sainz was so close. If he had gotten past, if he had been able to unlap himself from Hamilton faster, he would have been that much closer to Norris, and he would have perhaps tried to overtake him. And if Norris had wasted precious time in the beginning fighting with Perez and Valtteri, he would have had to pit faster. So his tires towards the end of the race would have been that much older. So I think they also recognize the fact that they have threats coming in from people who are going to be in the 6th, 7th and 8th place, and so their fight isn't with Red Bull or Mercedes.
Yeah, at the end of the race, Sainz found himself, like you said, in a strange position of like being quicker than the guy who was in second place, who was like a lap ahead of him, right?
Yeah.
And if he had unlapped himself, like you said, it would have been much, much closer, I think, for him to try and overtake Sainz. Try and overtake Norris.
A really good drive from Sainz. He managed to make his tires last a lot longer.
Yeah, 41 laps almost, right?
Yeah.
He pitted on lap 42 for the first time, and these were like medium tires that he just seemed to like massage brilliantly through the race. And yeah, he just lasted longer than everybody, and like he said post race, it just helped him jump the entire midfield. And so yeah, brilliant. Like I said again, strategy playing beautifully for Ferrari. Like we discussed, for a change. I mean, Sainz drove a brilliant race, no doubt, because at the end of the day, it is the driver's skill that's bringing the tire degradation to like a minimal amount. So yeah, it was a brilliant race from him overall. So let's talk about the winners and losers of this Grand Prix weekend. I think Ferrari and their strategic team were one of the biggest winners, right? Which was they had a great recovery weekend after their last race, where they really had a miserable weekend last race. So I think they were one of the big winners this race.
Speaking of Ferrari, I think a bigger winner is the blossoming friendship between Pierre Gasly and Kimi Raikkonen, because Ferrari superhero Charles bumped into both today, causing them damage.
Yeah, I think Martin Brundle said I think Charles Leclerc managed to like tag I think quarter of the field or something like that. But yeah, I'm sure their friendship is really blossoming.
Yeah.
Another big winner, of course, was Red Bull, right? Continuing their momentum, continuing their winning streaks and form from the last 2-3 weekends.
Yeah, and a big winner, Dr. Marco, his champagne-soaked see-through white shirt, really embracing his Bollywood aspirations there.
Yeah, and getting I think the getting a bunch of fans in terms of Laura Winters saying how wonderful it was that people got to see his champagne-soaked body. But I think that was
Refrain from commenting.
yeah, I really don't want to. It was not, what's the opposite of a site for sore eyes? A sore site for eyes? I don't know. But anyway, moving
Yeah.
very swiftly on from
Yeah.
that. I think another like the final big winner for me this weekend was Tsunoda for having like a completely incident-free weekend. He didn't spin, he didn't crash, he didn't like mess up in any way.
Yeah.
I think apart from impeding Bottas, so perhaps not such an
Yeah, he got a
incident.
three-place grid penalty,
But he
sure.
still finished in the points.
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
it was a surprising like change for him.
Sure.
Uh,
But for me, a big winner is Nikita Mazepin for getting a trophy, if you call it, from Haas team principal Gunther in the form of um,
a spinning top.
yes.
That's what he referred to him as.
Um,
Oh, our dear friend Mazepin. Anyway.
yeah, but on a serious note, in terms of winners and losers, I do have a few more. It was a sight for sore eyes to see Will Buxton back on track after being missing in action for 2 races. F1 commentary really needed him. It's been a shit show without him.
Yeah, most certainly agree. He did a great job as he usually does when he's back on track.
Losers, anybody trying to catch a glimpse of Toto Wolff while watching the race, like me, because they really didn't show him much. I mean, not even slamming tables, not even taking off his glasses, not even his mask slipping down his nose, nothing.
Okay. On a serious note, the losers, Gasly being one of them, naturally due on the first lap, and again Williams for not really capitalizing on like these opportunities. I don't know how frequently it's going to come for them, but yeah. And I think the final big loser for me would be Esteban Ocon. Finishing in P14 when his teammate is being like finishing consistently in the points in the
Yeah.
last 2 races and so comfortable in the car. He seems to be suddenly really struggling with
Yeah.
the Alpine.
Big winner, David Croft's theory on putting cows on the mountain to check for rain and wind. Met departments, if you're listening, hire the cows.
How is that a winner? How is that even a theory? I don't understand. But I don't pretend to like try and understand David Croft's thinking abilities. His thought process is just on a whole other level. So next weekend we have the Austrian GP as opposed to the Styrian GP this weekend, right? Couple of things that are going to be interesting. One is they are one step softer tires
Yeah,
for next weekend.
yeah,
I think that's going to affect Ferrari majorly
yeah.
as a team, but it's going to be interesting to see who else it affects. What are your thoughts on that? Like, who do you think is going to be either benefiting from that, or like generally, what are your thoughts on that?
So I think it's going to be a bit of a issue for Mercedes to manage their softer tires, and I'm interested to see what Aston Martin does, because in the past they've had really good tire management strategies, and that's let them jump a couple of places up. So yeah, that's what I think.
So I find it interesting. It's going to be an interesting battle up front, as it usually is, right?
Yeah.
I think Verstappen, Hamilton are both excellent at tire management. So I don't know if it's going to be that much of a struggle for them, but I feel like Bottas is going to be the big loser here. Historically, I think he's struggled to not to manage his tires, but I think to extend his tire life in the race, especially more than everybody else. He struggled with that, right? I think the person is going to be most beneficial to is probably Perez.
Perez.
Yeah, and his tire management skills in the race
Yeah.
coming into really its own.
But let's also not discount the fact that Bottas did today what Perez has been doing, right? Which is that he's in third, fourth place and he backs off, and that's how he preserves his tires. He doesn't, immediately chase after Max and Hamilton. So, and that's exactly what Bottas did today.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like you said, Perez did the same thing at Paul Ricard last race,
Yeah.
and Perez just like aped that strategy, and it worked out for him. So, yeah, no doubt. But I don't know. Somehow, I still feel like Perez might have a slight
better tire
advantage.
manager. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I think this comes down to now our usual end to our race episode. So, who do you think is going to be on the podium next race?
So at this point, it's the same track. Red Bull are coming in hot with a bunch of wins in a row. Their confidence is at an all-time high. Their car seems to be performing at a much better level. So it seems like everything seems to indicate that it's Red Bull for the win. It would be really interesting from a championship and from a viewing perspective if that wasn't the case. So, but the way things are looking right now, it looks like it's going to be Red Bull.
I think the word for the weekend, this race was momentum for Red Bull.
Yeah.
They are carrying the momentum of now four, I think, 4 wins on the trot. Red Bull
Yeah.
has
Monaco, Baku, Paul Ricard, and now.
yeah. So 4
Styria.
wins on the trot. So I definitely agree with you that they definitely have that momentum going for them, and it seems like they are too imperious on this track for Mercedes to catch up. But I'm hoping for rain next weekend to
Yeah.
mix things up a
Yeah.
lot. And yeah, at this point, like beyond Mercedes and Red Bull, it's really difficult to predict who's going to finish where because the midfield is so close. But I hope it's a better weekend for Pierre Gasly and George Russell, and not as heartbreaking as today for you. But yeah, so I then look forward to next race and hopefully see you again soon on the podcast so we can have these discussions again.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us, and
Thank you.
like I said, hope to see you soon again. So that was this week's episode. Thanks for tuning in, guys. As usual, please find us on our social media channels and subscribe and follow us to get the latest updates. We are Late Night Drives Podcast on Instagram. That's L8 Night Drives Podcast on Instagram, and Late Night Drives on Twitter. L8 Night Drives on Twitter. Thanks a lot, guys. Cheers. Have a good night.